podcast on your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
It's
Um,
exciting.
so yeah, why don't you tell me where did you grow up?
I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I grew up there my whole life. I don't know if you're a fan of The Office. That's the first thing that always comes to everybody's
Oh
mind
yeah,
is
yeah.
The Office.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I grew up there, and then I went to college at the University of Scranton. So I was there until I graduated, and then I moved to New Jersey, Weehawken, New Jersey. So right on the water to
Oh,
Manhattan,
cool.
and I actually worked as a trader on Wall Street for 3 years. And
Oh wow.
yeah, I quit that job at the beginning of the year. So it's been a crazy start to my music career.
So you recently quit that job?
Yeah, I quit in March. I I always said like there are two paths you could take as a musician, right? You could drop out of college and you could wait tables and you could try and get a record deal,
Uh-huh.
or you could go get a job and fund yourself and not have to wait on a record deal. And I was like, seemed like a better plan for me. So I went and I worked as a trader for 3 years and I banked all my bonuses and I was making music and no one that I worked with even knew that I was. And
Oh wow.
one day when all the coronavirus stuff was going down, I just called them and I was like, I'm out. I'm going back to Pennsylvania to start my music career. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, no one even knew you did music. So I just slipped out. I went back to Pennsylvania and I moved back in with my parents and started recording my EP from their basement. So,
Wow. So this is all very, as far as the recording process goes and the record, it's all very, very new.
yeah, it's all
Whoa.
brand new. First single came out in August of
Uh-huh.
2020. So and then the EP dropped in September. And then we just put out a new single at the beginning of January. So it's all brand new. I really came out of the blue, and it's been exciting. So it's been great so far.
That's so cool. That's awesome that you were into trading because that was like if I wasn't doing this, that was what I was interested in.
Is that right?
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, I was like doing all like, you know, I was working at night when I was on the radio, and it like,
Mhm.
and during the daytime, I was like, gosh, I really want to do, and I started following like Tim Sykes. He does like the penny trading, the penny
Yeah.
stocks. So I was like following him, and he's got this course, and like I was like so close to doing it because I'm like, wow, this guy's making a boatload of money, like so
It was a
fast.
it was a blast. I mean, well, if I wasn't so intent on going to do music, like every day I spent in finance felt like a day I was taking away from being in music, and that made me miserable. But if
Sure.
that feeling was gone, it was a blast. Like it was like playing video games all day long. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, like you were up to date on the news. You could talk educated like about any sort of like subject that was going on, and you were trading around like multi millions dollars every day. It was great. I miss it sometimes, but I'm so much happier making music.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how did you
Yeah.
get into music?
So it's funny. I always attribute it. I did a high school play, and I begged the casting director. I was like, I'll do the play. I was like, but I'm not doing a singing role. I was like, do not put me in a singing role. I refuse to do it. And she was like, no, don't worry, don't worry. I'm not going to give you a singing role, right? So sure enough, we show up for the first day of practice, and I had a singing role, and the casting director wasn't there,
Oh.
and so I walked up to the music director, and I was like, oh no, she assured me like I'm not going to have to sing in this, and he was like, oh no, like you're singing. And I refused to do it. I was so scared, but I realized that once I had to go through with it and I had to do the singing part, I realized that I was so scared of singing that when I would do it, my mind wouldn't think of anything else. And that's kind of like a drug in a sense where it's like I was so terrified of this thing that it would shut my mind off to everything else. And so I kind of got addicted to it and I just started practicing singing. Every time my parents would leave the house, I would like lock the doors and like close the blinds and I would start like practicing singing for years and years. And eventually one day I was like, I need to get serious about this or kind of ditch it. So I went out and bought a Yamaha keyboard and just taught myself piano and just started writing songs all throughout college. And then
Wow. So
here I am. Yeah.
you didn't start learning piano until you're in college?
No, until I was 19. And that was the thing. Like this music project was really born out of me being a fan of music first,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Okay.
and then I just got so desperate to do music that I was like, I need to catch up to everybody else. So I just went and bought a piano when I was 19 and started teaching myself and immediately started writing songs and then bought my recording software and started teaching myself that. I was just so desperate to get into music, to stop watching music and to actually get into it. And
Hmm.
um, finally when we put out the EP in September. It feels like you've caught up a little bit. I always feel like this imposter syndrome because I started so late.
Oh, sure. But
But
it's not even, I mean, 19, that's, you think about it, you're like, yeah, these kids have been playing since they're 5 or whatever, but I mean, in reality, it doesn't really matter.
yeah, and that's the thing I thought was like, and that's why I tried to base the EP on. It's like there's nothing crazy musically in it or anything like that. But I wanted to be authentic and honest, and those things are difficult to do as a musician. I was like, if I could be good at those things, then maybe I can make some room for myself.
Sure. And so the first record, My Name Is Not Kaiser, is that the first album?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the EP that we dropped.
That
Yep.
was the EP, and it was just you working on it. Tell me about that. Like,
Yeah.
multiple people. Because in the
Well,
video I saw, there's like a video of you playing -9, and there's somebody playing guitar, and you're playing
yeah,
piano.
that the video -9 was the guy playing guitar is actually the producer. So he was that guy who engineered and produced it, and then we just went out and he played guitar and swapped in and did the live session. For 3 of the 4 songs on the EP, I produced by myself. Like I did all the parts just from my keyboard or whatever, and produced it. And then the only thing I did was I sent it out to get mastered. And then for Say Hello, which was our first single, that I worked with a guitarist that I knew from high school. He came on and played guitar and helped produce it. When I was trying to put the project together, I just had this 2-song demo, and I had no music context because I was working in the world of finance. So I just thought of the most talented kid from high school that I could remember. And I hit him up on LinkedIn and I was like, please, can you just listen to this and then help me produce it? And he loved it. So he came on board and produced Say Hello and played guitar on it. And then he came back on board to do -9 along with that other producer. So
Wow.
yeah, it's like an indie project through and through. Like we're really like roughing it out here.
Sure, but I mean, Say Hello is doing. I mean, a lot of your songs are doing awesome on like streaming service. I'm looking at Spotify, and the first single you put out has over 150,000 plays.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, the good thing was we knew that we were going to be starting from zero and nobody knew who we were. So we had to really start getting momentum quickly. And so we did some advertising and thankfully, because I had some money, I was able to, actually put into marketing and then you get super sketched out because you see what Spotify did, removing 750,000 tracks, 2 weeks ago because of bot streams and stuff. And so we were super concerned, like, oh, are the streams we're getting like legitimate or not? But then we got placed on fresh finds from Spotify, and that was validation that like everything we're doing is legitimate, and that was exciting. So
Yeah,
the EP went great.
That just happened. You found out one day, you're like, oh, we made that playlist. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I'm here in Florida now at my fiance's place. I'm from Pennsylvania, like I said, but I was here again last time and I was just cruising through Spotify for artists, looking like what was up. And I was scrolling through and it was like, there was this little data point. It was like, here's where you're added to fresh finds. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't see this. And then I started like digging through and I'm like, my heartbeat was going up because if you land like a Spotify editorial, that's huge for an indie artist, especially with no backing and stuff like that. So I remember I was like calling all my family. I thought for me, like, I thought I was a millionaire. Like I thought I had made it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
But
huge.
yeah, it was a cool moment. And to get there organically was really cool.
Sure, that's amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, back to the first song you put out. So this all started like as coronavirus happened, like in 2019. Like, tell me how that was, like how that started the project. You were like home quarantine and you called your work and you're like, yeah, I'm not coming back.
Yeah, no. So I planned it a little bit in advance. So
Okay.
in 2019 was when I reached out to my friend from high school. His name's Eric, and I asked him if he would come on board to get my first single done. And so while I was working on Wall Street, I was spending my nights just working on the song. So I'd get home from work, we would email tracks back and forth, and then we would put together the single. So by the end of 2019, I had Say Hello completely finished. Like it was completely polished. And I was still working on Wall Street. And then I knew that I wanted to put out an EP. I didn't want to just do one single. But I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that with the time commitment of working full
Work,
time on Wall
yeah.
Street. Yeah. So I was like, there was something in me that was like, you got to either leave now or it's never going to happen, because I just wasn't going to be able to get an EP out in that circumstance. So I decided after the next like bonus cycle, I was just going to take the bonus and just fund myself with it. And so I started like planting seeds. It was so funny. I haven't told anybody that worked with this story, but like coronavirus went down. And so we all started working remotely.
Uh-huh.
And I knew I was leaving. So I like snuck into the office one day and like cleaned out my desk. Like nobody knew because nobody was there. And then I actually moved out of New Jersey back to Pennsylvania, and nobody had any idea that I was gone. And then I just randomly, I called them one day and I was like resigning, and everybody was super cool with it, which was crazy. I did not expect that, but I mean, it was a nerve-wracking day. So in 2020, in March, when I quit, that's when I moved home. That's when the other 3 songs came, to life. And then the EP got dropped in September. So that was really the start of the project.
Wow. So once you got home is when you really started honing down and continued writing the rest of the record?
Yeah, the songs were written, and I didn't really realize until I sat down to actually flesh them out into full songs, like how much work there was left to do. Because in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I've got 4 great songs. Like I know what they're going to be. And then I sat down in front of Pro Tools and I was like, I just quit my job and all I have is the piano chords and some lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it came to life like way, way quicker than I thought it would. And I was like so focused. And with coronavirus, there was nothing else to do, So
Mhm.
no distractions or anything like that. And it came about in a couple months. And then we spent a couple months just like getting all the groundwork laid for releasing the song. We wanted to make sure that we were going to come into it like with a plan. And coming from a business background, like I understood that this was going to be a lot like building a small business. And even if you have a great song, it doesn't matter if no one's going to listen to it and if you can't
Right.
get it in front of people. So we had like marketing strategies me and my friend came up with. Like my best friend is my manager, so it's like we
That's
were just trying
awesome.
to figure it out as we go along. And yeah, we got a lot of things in place, and we hired an animator to do our animated music video for Say Hello.
Oh, cool. That's yeah, so the animation that's in the video, that was you had hired somebody to do that out. That's a cool video.
Yeah, the we had her come back on just to do a little Spotify canvas for the new single -9.
Mhm.
But she did the full music video for Say Hello, which
Wow.
was really, really cool. Um, so yeah, we tried to get some stuff like we wanted it to be a good first impression.
Mhm.
So we took the time to kind of like put that in order. So
Yeah, dude, I love what you're doing. Your voice is awesome. Like I'm
oh,
surprised that
thank you.
you haven't been doing this forever. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been dealing with a vocal injury now for like 3 years, which has been brutal. So
Wow.
I had to record this EP with that. I have like an ulcer on my vocal cords that will not go away. I had to
Oh
recently have
my
surgery
gosh.
for it. So
Oh,
it's been a
dude.
nightmare. But
I know about throat surgery. I've had 3 or 2 on
oh
my
no
front
way.
and 1 through the back. Yeah, my neck. It wasn't on the throat, but it was um my cervical spine.
Oh
So
jeez,
they had
that's
to like
brutal.
move all that stuff out of the way to like get in
Oh,
there and put it back. But it's all good now.
that's
That was my
great.
main concern. I'm like, this is what I do for life. Like, if I can't use my voice, I'm screwed.
That's what I said. I was like I couldn't just have like a busted knee or something. Like it has
Right.
to be my voice. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so I've been dealing with that forever, and it is awful. But we were able to get the EP recorded and get the new single, and my voice just it gives out quicker than it should, but we've been able to make do so far. So
And have you like performing in that play? Was that like the first only experience you had performing in front of people?
yeah, that's like the other kind of secret I try and keep from people is like I've never played a live show. Like
Yeah.
we have all this music out there now and like all this content, and it's like I've never played a show in front of anybody. So um, the last time I did it was like in high school. But I sort of am resigned to the fact where it's like this is my new identity. I just have to roll with it. And when the live shows come, I'm just going to have to step up to the plate and be ready for it. And we're actually now sort of in the beginning steps of trying to get together a band, because it is a solo project. Like, it is just me. So we're trying to get together like a band to actually, whenever we're allowed to, go out and play some live shows.
Yeah, because you said the producer played guitar on the video that I was watching with the new single.
Yeah, he has a full-time job, and I keep telling him he's a part of telco now. He just doesn't know it.
Yeah, just wait. You're gonna be involved here somehow.
Yeah, wait for the right time to ask and just be like, you're coming with us.
Right.
But we'll see. So
That's cool. Well, you obviously have skills to do it in front of the computer. Was that where you're going the first time? And like you're doing, I've seen like your live session stuff that you have on your Instagram.
Yeah.
How new was that, and how scary was that the first time?
Yeah, that was scary, because growing up, I used to have, I have like really bad OCD. And so like one of the things that was a problem with my OCD was it wasn't like ritualistic stuff. It wasn't like knocking on a door 3 times or anything like that. It was all what they would call like intrusive thoughts coming into your head that you didn't want, right? And so when you pair that with performance anxiety, it's brutal, because you're constantly thinking, I'm going to hit the wrong note. I'm going to hit the wrong note. And my mind will go blank like immediately, because I'm so petrified of that happening. And so when I sat down at the keyboard to do the live session, I'm like, no one's even here. And I'm nervous, you know?
Sure.
But you go through it a couple times and you realize that this is what I've been trying to do for years and years and years. And you start to loosen up, and it's something I'm learning as I go along, but it's definitely still new.
But I'm sure it gets easier with time, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the music that's the whole reason I became addicted to music, was shutting my mind off, because of those problems and stuff like that. So that's why I became addicted to music in the first place. So.
Wow. Well, man, I think what you're doing is awesome. I can't believe
Thank
that
you.
this has all just been within the past year or so.
Yeah.
I mean, with the pandemic and everything, I mean, artists usually will release a record and then tour the record, release a record, tour the record. You have to kind of come about this as like totally, like, since you hadn't done it prior, it's almost like you're paving a new way of this like industry, so to speak.
Yeah. That's why we're kind of like, it's a little challenging time now, because we're like, do we start putting together a new body of work, or do we wait to tour the EP? And that's why we kind of put this single out, because I think with the EP plus this single, we have enough that can carry us into 2021 and hopefully go out and tour this EP and play the new single. And we have enough like diversification in our sound, because the new single is much different than what the EP sounded like. But yeah, we're just trying to keep it's tough. You got to be active on Instagram and all that stuff, and just constantly be putting out content, which is not my strong suit to begin with, but we're trying our best,
Yeah, I mean, I would have never imagined that it was just like you pretty much behind this whole operation. I mean, you're doing a great job at it,
I appreciate
especially
it.
for only been doing it for less or a year or so. I mean, a little over a year. That's wild.
Yeah, and I think I've always said that I think coming from a business background helped a lot, because
sure.
you can't be unorganized anymore, because you're supposed to wear so many hats as an independent artist, and so managing your finances and marketing and writing the music and creating the content, you have so many balls in the air that if you're an unorganized person, you have no shot in the music industry anymore. So I'm just like, it's nice with coronavirus in a sense, because I can't focus on anything else. I can't go to the bars or anything like that, but it's tough. It's a full-time job,
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, because it's such a new, landscape of how artists are having to work and put music out and get it in front of people. I mean, you're kind of in the same boat as everybody else, even though you haven't played a live show. It doesn't really, at this moment, I mean, it wouldn't hinder you at all.
It's a great equalizer, because it's like me and every other band in the world is doing the same thing, and we're all kind of competing just on Instagram for people's attention. And that's why we're trying to do, like, I don't know if you saw, like, we released my phone number.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that your real number?
Yeah, that's it. That's my real. I was like, we were trying to think because we use the name telco as a way of like preventing me from being the face of the project, right? Because
Okay.
a lot of times you get pigeonholed, right? If I went by Michael Gilbride, the artist, then everybody thinks all my music is about me and everything has to be a selfie of me and my Instagram has to be loaded with pictures of me. So I didn't want to go that route because it doesn't allow any room for people to put themselves into my music if they assume it's all about me in
Hmm.
a sense. Um, but at the same time, like I didn't want to keep everybody at an arm's distance. Like I still wanted to engage with the people who are listening to my music because they were the only ones that were allowing me to do what I loved. So we were like, how can we balance these two things? And so we were like, well, we won't show a lot of pictures of what I look like, but then we'll release my phone number. And now I'm like talking with people all across the world, and everybody's been super nice. And so far, no risque pictures or anything like that. But it's been interesting for sure. So
That's cool. I've seen a few artists that have put like a text number, and when I've interviewed them, I'm like, "Is that your real number?" Like, well, no, it's like an extension of an app that we can go onto and reply to people. And it's like, okay, so basically they're just DMing you.
right. So that was my thing was like, I hate fake authentic stuff. Like I hate when people try and act authentic in the fake way. So I was like, if I'm going to put my phone number out there, then I don't want people to text the phone number and get an automated response or get, sucked into some app or get advertisements or whatever. I was like, if I'm going to put my phone number out there, it's going to be my real phone number. And we did get a second phone. So I have two phones, but it's like the one I carry around with me now. So, I mean, those texts are going directly to my pocket. If I answer the text, they're coming from me. You know what I mean? So I was like, if we're going to do it, we need to be authentic in the way we go about it. And from my standpoint, it's been really good because everybody I talk to becomes a super fan because they're now texting the artist that they would love to listen to. So
Sure.
they're like my little army now,
Do you think that's something you're gonna say when you have 500,000 fans? Is the cell phone still gonna be in your pocket, responding to people? What do you think?
I believe in trying to keep it going as long as it's viable, and then eventually I'm gonna have to throw my hands up. But I want to try and keep it going as long as possible, or until I get in trouble with my fiance.
There you go.
She's like, who are you texting now? Like, what are they saying to you? And like, did they send you anything? And I'm like already feeling nervous. I'm like, no, it's just some random person from Texas.
Yeah, no one's sending you nudes yet.
Yeah, no. Thank the Lord. Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. Like I think that's so awesome that you put up your real number, because I've seen, like I said, I've seen other artists do it in the sense that you text them and it probably sends back like, click yes if you want to continue receiving notifications from this number. You're like, that isn't Cardi B.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw that they were like, Mark Cuban released his phone number and everybody was going nuts. And I was like, that's obviously not his phone number,
Right.
But I'm small enough that I could do it.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. And obviously the newest song is called -9. Tell me about that song.
Yeah, I actually wrote that song when I was living out in New Jersey. And it started as like very much like the live session that you saw. It was just on the piano. It was very quiet. I remember I lived in an apartment with like thin walls, so I couldn't sing it at all. I had to basically whisper it. And so I recorded it just into my voice notes, this little acoustic thing. And I had to transpose it down like 9 keys or whatever. And so it was in my notes as -9, just to remind me. And then I got so used to seeing that as the title that when I went to flesh this out into a full song, I was like, I couldn't separate the two, And so I just kept it as the title. And I found that a lot of people just will accept whatever title you kind of put out there because it becomes equivalent to that song now. They just associate that title with this song. So when we started putting it together, I asked Eric, who is the guitarist from Say Hello, to come back on. And then we paired up with a producer, Rob Chiarappa, from the Barbershop Studios in New Jersey. And he came on to produce it. And we wanted to turn it into something that was like, we kept saying, and we wanted to sound like a Bruce Springsteen song being played live. Like we wanted it.
That does sound like a Bruce. like the keys and everything with the guitars and the harmonies. That's a great,
Mhm.
great
Yeah,
example.
like we didn't want too much like electronic or like drum machine stuff. Like we wanted all the feeling of what made the 80s the 80s, but we wanted to put it as if it was being played in a live show in front of you. So we
Hmm.
wanted sort of like that dynamic range of like almost like a live show. So we did all real live drums and real instrumentation and stuff, and it sort of brought it into a three-dimensional environment, which was really cool. And it sort of gives you like the feeling of being in a car with the windows down, which is why our animation was exactly that. And
Hmm.
it turned into something that was not at all what I envisioned it to be when I was at my little keyboard in New Jersey. But that's the cool part.
Yeah, when I listened to it, I was like, I was shook how good it was. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
thanks.
I'll check this guy out. Whoa, like, yeah, yeah,
Thank
it
you.
really took me away. I was very impressed, and hearing that you haven't been doing this very long is even more insane to me.
I
I can't
appreciate it.
imagine what's coming next.
Yeah, I was excited with it, and it was cool too because it was such a shift from what Say Hello sounded like.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm such a fan of like that New Jersey 80s, like Jack Antonoff, Bruce
Oh,
Springsteen
sure.
kind of sound. Like
Hmm.
Bleachers is one of my like all-time favorite projects. And so I was like, I couldn't resist the temptation to like go in that direction. And
Sure.
then when I partnered with Rob, who produced it, he was like the same as me, and so we kind of just like dove headfirst into that sound, and it ended out turning really cool.
That's awesome. And how about other songs? Have you been writing a bunch since we're all still stuck inside our houses?
Yeah, I writing songs for me is actually pretty difficult. I feel like I'm not one of the people who comes up with a new song every week or records 100 demos. Like I'll typically pick one song like every 6 months and I'll just see it through from start to finish. And so I have a new song that I'm working on that is completely in the opposite spectrum of the new song we just released. So I'm like pivoting way back in the other direction. Um, but I think we're going to take a little bit of time now to promote the new single and the EP, try and get our live stuff together. I think we might do a cover and release that on Spotify. We have a couple ideas, and then we'll see as 2021 goes along, depending on what the world looks like. Get back in the studio and try recording this new track.
Very cool. And if as far as forming a band, do you have people in mind, or is that just going to come together at some point when everyone's allowed to tour?
Yeah, I know like three people in music still. Like coming from, but that's the thing. I'm really like trying to figure it out as I go along, and which is why I'm trying to have as much success as I can before have to ask for a band, because it's gonna make my job a lot easier.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I have a couple ideas in my head of like some people I'd reach out to, but again, it's gonna be people from high school or whatever, like people
Yeah.
that I just knew as the musicians back in the day, or I'm sure I'll run into people and stuff like that, but we're gonna start working on that pretty soon because we want to get prepped.
Sure. That's so awesome. What a journey. I mean, turning down or leaving your job on Wall Street to start doing music. I mean, that
It's
was quite a risk, and I mean, it looks like it's really working out for you now. That's amazing.
it's funny too. When I left, I was having the best year. Like my 2020, I started 2020 off. I was the person who bet against the market in 2020, and so I was crushing it, and
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
I was in line for like a big payday, and I was like, this is the Lord testing me, like how bad I want this, because if I leave now, I'm going to be like foregoing this big payday. But it was an easy decision because I was like, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I've never been as happy as I am now being able to work on this constantly. So
That's amazing. Yeah,
it's a
they
good
say, what
decision.
is it? You don't work a day in your life if you love what you do.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's how it
Something
feels.
along those lines. That's amazing, man. Well, I love what you're doing. I can't wait to hear the new stuff you have coming out. And what are you doing any more live stream things, or are they just going to kind of come as you decide?
Yeah, we're gonna try and do. It's so hard because trying to get people in the room during coronavirus is brutal,
Hmm.
and especially my parents have like some health conditions that have always sketched me out, and
Sure.
so we're gonna try and do some live sessions from the EP. And then I also want to get like a band to do like the full version of -9 instead of a stripped down version. I think that would be cool. So I think that's the kind of content we're going to be putting out at the beginning of 2021. Another, maybe like a cover, like I said, on Spotify, stuff like that. But we'll see. It's hard to predict anything.
Sure. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
They keep saying, like last year, they're like, in October, everything will be open and ready to go. Okay.
Yeah. Remember 14 days to stop the spread? Remember that joke?
Yeah. What happened to the curve? Did that thing ever
Yeah.
get out?
No.
Never.
I know.
Oh, well, Michael, dude, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. I love, like I said, I love -9. And when I heard that stripped down version, I was like, whoa, like this is really got something. So thank you for doing this. I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, man. I would say to just, every time that you think you're not going to make it, to just keep pushing through that, because I started when I was 19. I didn't even know what a C chord was, And so to try and think that I was going to catch up to musicians that were out there and put out an EP by the time I was 25 and have, a little bit of success and stuff like that was so far from my mind. But you have to just, once you commit to it, you just have to stick to it. And there's going to be so many obstacles that come up that make you think that, everybody else is better than you, or it's impossible, or that you're so far from it. But if you do baby steps, one step at a time, like, you'll constantly be making progress. And that's the only thing that you can kind of ask for. So just stick with it. That would be my goal.